Today, we're getting the insights from indie game developer with an inspiring story, Ulfsire, from Maine in the United States. Thanks for joining me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. So, can you start by just telling us about your game, Achra? Or you've got two games now, maybe the one that's been
Yeah,
out.
yeah. So the one that is out, it's called Path of Achra, and it was sort of like intended to be a learning project. It's a traditional roguelike with like all pixel art and music that I made, and it's just like a really kind of straightforward dungeon crawler, but it's sort of aspires to be in that the realm of the other games in that genre. Like I think Caves of Cud is probably the most popular, but like Rift Wizard and Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup and that kind of thing.
So, you said it was a learning project. So, what was your programming and game experience like before it?
Um, Zero programming experience and game design. I like to sort of make Warcraft 3 maps. And I've done that for probably since I was like 15 on and off. So that actually I attribute to being a really strong source of game design practice because you can basically iterate on ideas really quickly. There's a reason why Dota and stuff came out of that world editor. But in terms of programming, I was totally new to it.
That's pretty cool. I loved playing Warcraft 3. Did you play
Yeah.
much StarCraft 2 or mess with that map editor?
No, that came out. I didn't want to change. I just wanted to keep going in Warcraft 3. Even to this day, people still make maps in that. And I like fantasy a lot more than sci-fi.
Nice. Did you ever play Castle Fight?
Yeah.
That was one I really liked.
My brother was really into that. He was like friends with the maker or the top clan or something when it was really popular. It's sort of been taken over by Direct Strike now.
Yes, which I really loved
Yeah.
that one too.
Which I think that's got like a StarCraft DNA, right? Isn't that from the StarCraft editor? There's all sorts of
Yeah,
intro.
I didn't realize there was a Warcraft version. If there was, I
There
only
is
played
now,
it with
and it's
StarCraft.
totally like taken over all the Castle Fight players.
Yeah, and that's basically a totally new genre called tug of war, which is awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it's so cool how that's a genre. You can only get that by customizing an RTS.
So, your game has been really successful. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a lot of luck. Like I got covered by a series of YouTubers, culminating in the Seth guy, who's like giant, and who just made it reach a lot of people. And early on, also, I think word of mouth helped a lot. Like just because I made a really kind of straightforward game that was serving a very specific kind of aesthetic, I think it helped create people that were really into it and wanted to share it with their friends and that kind of thing. Um, I don't know. I can't. I'm not really a mark. I don't have a marketing background either, so I don't. I'm not an expert in this kind of thing. I tried to like be active on social media. I never really had a ton of followers anywhere though. But yeah, I don't know.
Were you actively reaching out to these streamers and content creators, or did they kind of find it on their own?
Not the biggest one, but like the early on, I was sending it out to like Splattercat and all those guys, and those like the ones I was aware of that sort of felt like the ultimate sort of grail of YouTube coverage. But I haven't really been good about mass sending out keys or contacting streamers. I actually my philosophy around that is actually I like to just give keys to people on like Reddit or social media that I see talking about the game and wishing they could buy it. I sort of have a theory that creates sort of like a more powerful like undercurrent of enthusiasm than a streamer that might not even be interested and might just like I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know because there are people that like the advice is to sort of mass send out like keys constantly to tons and tons of people that might not even be in the same genre. And what I was making was so specific and so sort of niche that I didn't feel like it was really worth the effort.
On Steam, I saw your game has over 2,400 reviews right now, and it's considered overwhelmingly positive. So people really love the game.
Hell yeah. I was pretty anxious about reviews at the start, and it was really well reviewed because it like attracts people that are going to like it. It doesn't attract people that aren't going to like it. So I got to like 200 or 250 reviews with it being 100% positive. So like the further that went, the more like emotionally charged the first negative review was going to be, even though I knew that it was like inevitable.
Yeah.
But I'm glad it's still like above 95. I can't look at it anymore because of that. Like I need to practice not caring about. It's something you can't really control directly.
Before you released it, did you have a lot of feedback, and did you have playtesters playing it?
Yeah, that was something. I don't know if that's like something unique that I did, but it like I initially released a version on itch.io that was free that you could play on the browser, and that got a lot of people into it because it was so easy to access because you don't have to download anything. I use Godot as a game engine, and that has you can really easily publish something as like an HTML game with that. So I did that for like many months before having a Steam demo, and then I think it was in total like a year being on itch.io and having a Steam demo before I actually launched it into early access, which I then did for a year, taking feedback, adding content, and then I did the final release. So I guess it was a pretty elaborate sort of cycle of iteration and taking feedback before calling it done. You plug my phone in.
What was some of the feedback you got? Did you make a lot of changes?
Not really. Like a lot of the feedback that I think was most striking to me was people desiring. Well, the biggest technical challenge is people desiring ways to view information and to like hover over something and see all the stats and all the numbers. So figuring out how to like loop that through. The combat log was a big challenge, but I made it super detailed. That was something I did like in the middle of development because people kept asking for it. Like you can see if an instance of damage is dealt, it'll tell you like what specific ability that came from and how it was modified and everything in a really like elaborate way. Another surprise with feedback was that people really liked the writing and the lore, which I didn't really put a lot of like effort or work into at the start because my experience in Warcraft 3 maps is that nobody reads anything and nobody cares about that stuff. So I didn't think it would matter. But people love that and love the world building and stuff, so I've just sort of run with that. And that has more to do with my background in like poetry and ancient mythology. So I was happy to be able to use those kinds of skills.
That's cool. So, with your new game, is it an extension of this game? Is it a different type of game?
It's sort of like in the same universe. I like the idea of reusing assets and lore and flavor. A lot of the games I like a lot do that, like the Dominion series, which is by like this guy's called Illwinter. But I'm trying to make like a 4X game because I'm interested in open world generation and generating countries and factions and armies and having armies fight and that kind of thing. And yeah, the idea is it's sort of in the same universe. It's in the next sort of era. And the long-term plan is to sort of use this as a framework to make another RPG like the original game with more of an open world, like expansive environment.
Is there anything you learned from doing the first game that you're applying to this game as you're building it from scratch?
Yeah, I mean, everything I'm learning is new because I don't know how to code. So I learned a lot from making Path of Achra, and I'm trying to apply that to this project. So I know how to like do certain things so it doesn't slow down the game more, and how to set things up so they're easy to work with and easier to track. But it's also sort of made me more ambitious at what I'm trying to do. So I'm creating new issues that I have to now find solutions for. So it's interesting. And I'm definitely like, the specifics aren't interesting because they'll just kind of reveal how sort of inept I am at this stuff. But I did learn a lot. And I'm trying to apply it.
Are you approaching the game design any differently? Are you writing a game design document or anything like that?
I don't have a document. I probably should. I have an idea of what I'd like it to be. Path of Achra, there's a philosophy behind it that comes from my Warcraft 3 maps, which is that you want to create customization and variety by giving lots of combinational elements, and that you want to reduce micro as much as possible. Which is that's like a very Warcraft 3 map thing to do, like reduce micro. That's what Castle Fight is. Like you take away your control so you don't have to focus on that. So the 4X game is sort of like that. Like I'm trying to like remove a lot of the overhead that those games have, remove a lot of the management, and just create ways to sort of customize your army and your nation or faction and create a lot of variety.
That's cool. You were talking about Direct Strike earlier. That is one of the reasons I like it is because I can play it on my laptop without a mouse and worrying about all my APM and all that. I can just kind of sit back and play.
Yeah, getting rid of APM is huge. Like that's the goal. It, yeah, I totally agree. And it's
Now,
hard because sometimes people ask for features that they don't realize are going to add APM, and they don't know how bad that can get. Like a lot of people weren't like around in the heyday of RTSs either, where that was the whole like the skill was how fast you could click, and it's just like for me that's like torture. Like I can't enjoy games that way. I know that it's something people like and it's a skill, but it's definitely what I'm trying to move away from or avoid.
when do you plan on releasing this next game?
I'm trying to get it done in like I'd say like several months. I'm getting pretty close, but it's hard. It just depends how fast I can work and how easily things get solved. It's coming along. It's been pretty good.
Has it? Well, with the first game, did you just self fund everything? Did you do a Kickstarter or anything like that?
No, I was working like at a bakery, like making lattes for like like minimum wage. That was that's sort of my life before I could make money doing this. So I was doing that, and I was able to quit that job like probably like 6 months after releasing Path of Acra because I realized like I was making like the same amount per month from that, so I could just focus on it.
Yeah, one of the first posts that I came across and discovered from you was basically saying how you paid off your student debts with the
Yeah,
game money, which is incredible. That's awesome.
yeah, that's been hanging over my head for so long. That's just I can't even really believe that happened. But yeah, that's just I'm just very grateful that I was able to do that because it was just constantly something I was thinking about, and it made me feel like I couldn't progress in life. so that's been good.
And so it's selling enough to where you can do this basically full time.
Yeah, it's not like I don't think it'll be consistent. Like it sold a lot because of that last giant video, just like one YouTuber. Like basically that Seth guy paid for my college education. I'll like in a way. So I mean, I'm sure that it'll die down, and I won't. It'll be make less and less. That's most games just sort of go down over time. So that's sort of why I wanted. If I had to like, if I could actually am able to imagine myself as a game designer now, or like a game maker, what I would want is to have like sort of a body of work, like having several games in sort of a universe that I can iterate on. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I can see also if people discover your next game as the first game they play, there's a high likelihood they'd be interested in going back and getting the other one too.
Yeah, I would just like to have some kind of just build some kind of aesthetic. Like I don't expect the next game to do as well as this one, but I just want to have like things out there that are trying. they're like tackling it from different angles and that are represent sort of enhancements of of my craft, of what I'm able to do, like, or not just enhancements of my ability to code something, which is still pretty low, but I would it's just hard to like sort of apply that to an existing project because you build everything on top of a flawed system that you made and you can't really undo it. So I very much want multiple projects.
And it's been out for almost a year now, right?
Yeah, I did I left early access last like May 1st. So yeah, about a year. But
And so,
it was out for a year before that in early access, to be fair.
so you've had a lot of analytics to see, whether it's still selling month to month. You're saying there was definitely one big spike.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, December. It's what happens with Steam is if you get a huge spike, then that just increases your baseline for a while because Steam promotes based on how much something sells. So the more it sells, the more it'll promote it. So once you sell a lot, suddenly it'll start showing it to more people, so it sells more. So you can sort of ride a big spike for a while. And
so you notice your baseline jumped up a little bit after that, even though it was trailing off still.
Yeah, it jumped up a lot from what it was before, but it'll go back down. It's just a matter of time.
Now, have there been any learning resources that you found the most valuable?
I think just with Godot, like once I learned how to read the documents for the engine, like how stuff worked, or once I learned how to like interpret that, that has been the main thing. Or just Googling questions. Early on, like I followed a platforming tutorial. I think that's the first thing I did, and then I tried to make a strategy game, and those are both good learning experiences. And then I made Path of Achra. But yeah, I don't know. In terms of technical questions, I've really tried to just do it myself because I really wanted to like develop my own way of doing it. I have trouble learning new things, I think, if I'm not like doing it.
How about the assets? Did you do everything yourself?
Yeah, I did the art and I did the music.
Nice. Did you have to learn a lot to do those too?
The art was sort of like I've always drawn stuff and drawn monsters and things, so that sort of came more naturally. The music was super weird to do, but the programs that are out today for making music are really easy to use, and it like once I sort of found the type of sounds that I liked and like how to like play it slowly, that's basically just how I made all the music for it.
And did you have any background in music before that?
No, I didn't. But I think I just had a really clear idea of what I wanted it to sound like, which helped.
What kind of tools did you use and programs?
For art, I used GIMP, which is not ideal for pixel art, but it's just what I was used to. And then for the music, I used One Bit Dragon, which is on itch.io, and that's like it's like $25, but it's made by a sole developer. It's really really easy to use. I recommend it highly.
Interesting. I love making music. That's one of the things I spend a lot of time doing, but I've never heard of this One Bit Dragon. I'll have to check this out.
Yeah, it's the first thing I tried and it just worked really well. So I can't compare it to other stuff, but it's very visual. It just I don't know. It was really for someone that's never made music. I think it's really good.
How about the sound effects?
I think I just looked for like the normal like free assets and then modified them and what's it called, Audible or whatever.
Audacity.
Yeah, Audacity. I haven't done that in a long time. That's like something I did at the start. I never touched it again. So many things are like that. Like you do it once and it's settled, and then you don't have to use it again. You forget how it works. I'll have to use it again for the next project.
And you're doing everything by yourself for this one too, or are you contracting out any work?
I'm doing it myself just because I sort of like the idea of that. It's making it slower and less. Um, it's making it different. Like my audience grow less the more I take on and try to do myself. But I think it's the way I want to do it. Like it just makes it more enjoyable for me. I don't really have a good temperament for managing like contracts or that anything like that.
So you have no desire to work with a publisher either?
No, I've thought about it and I've like gone up to the precipice of it, but I don't know, they'd have to like really make me feel like I wasn't. It's hard for me to work if I'm worried about someone else, like having promised something to someone else. I don't know. It just messes with me. And some publishers are really good. Like there's some that I'd love to work with that I just haven't really talked to. I don't know. It's something I could consider it because stuff like porting is not something I'd ever want to do, and I would be happily let somebody do that. But it also has felt like my project isn't really big enough to warrant a publisher.
Hmm. Are you going to do the same process with an early release and getting feedback from playtesters and doing that the same way?
I don't know about early access. I'll definitely do a demo. Early access was fun because I would have these months where I would like add something new every single day, and it was really exciting for people. And now I've done the full release. I haven't been doing that, and I feel bad for all the new players that haven't didn't get to experience that level of like sort of volatile creativity. I think that's sort of a fun part of playing a game that's made by a solo dev is they can like you can sort of be on a roller coaster like that. So I might just do a full release and do a lot of content updates for that, just so more people get to sort of experience that fun part.
So if no plan for a public early access, are you going to seek out playtesters in like a closed beta?
Um, I'll probably just do a public demo
Just the
and then
demo?
get feedback on that. Yeah, like a closed beta is weird. On like you get to do something on Steam. Every like new thing I have to learn how to do deters me. It's probably a good idea to do that, but we'll see.
Do your games have any cheat codes?
No, they're just really unbalanced.
Do you have more future plans after the next game?
Yeah, yeah. I want to make another like a Path of Acro 2 that's like an open world. I want to apply all the like continent generation that I'm learning to do with this 4X game and use it for a bigger RPG.
What about long term? Do you ever see yourself owning a studio or anything like that?
I don't know, maybe. I'm still sort of learning what like I'm able to. I'm still trying. Like I didn't expect any of this to happen, so I'm still like kind of figuring out what I want to do and what works. I mean, the economy is always changing. I get stressed out whenever I read about studios and like how they go into debt or whatever, and just like all this risk. I've what I've been doing has been pretty low risk, so that's helped a lot. But I don't know, maybe like I really enjoy like on my Discord. There's all these people that have joined that I really like on the same page in terms of the aesthetics and what kind of world that they'd like to build. It'd be I think it'd be gratifying in a new way to sort of work with other people that share a vision. So maybe I'll do that someday if I can.
With the music, do you provide a soundtrack or have you ever considered selling the soundtrack as its own standalone thing?
I don't think the music is high enough effort to warrant selling a soundtrack. But I put it all. I made a website, just pathofacra.com, and it has all the tracks on there uploaded as like MP3s.
Do you have any advice for somebody else who might be starting out with game development?
Yeah, I would just say don't undervalue word of mouth. That's always what um, sort of helped me and gave me momentum. You can't really rely on anything else, but you can control how you interact with people, and if you can control how generous you are with people, and you can control how much you thank people. So try to do things like that. Anyone giving you attention, anyone playing your game, is like the most precious thing that you'll ever encounter. Like the hardest thing to get is attention, because there's so much stuff out there. So just value that stuff.
Do you make use of AI anywhere in your process?
I don't. I actually try to, and even on my Discord, I try to foster a sort of a viciously anti AI community. But I'm not. I don't. I don't really. I'm not mad if people use it, but I definitely don't want to use it.
Do you have different feelings? Like I can understand people feel very strongly about the art and AI stuff there.
Yeah, the art, yeah. I mean the art stuff. Like, it's probably sounds hypocritical, but I don't care if people use AI for code or something. I probably should do that too, but I haven't learned how to do it.
I'm thinking in terms of like almost like a tutor for the game engine. Like if you need
Yeah,
clarification on a
yeah,
certain aspect of the game engine or
yeah.
something.
I think with that stuff, it's sort of just remind like Google search is already doing that. Like it's just like a Google search to some degree. You're just trying to ask a question, and
I
it might
guess
not
that's
work.
true. There's no avoiding it now.
Yeah.
Well, cool. And before we go, is there anything else you want to share or plug?
I'm drawing a blank. Uh,
How about your website and your socials? Where can people find you?
yeah, my website pathofacra.com. That's got links to my socials. Come hang out in Discord. There's a lot of people in there, a lot of developers and people doing art and music, and that's sort of the environment I want to sort of cultivate. Um, you can see me on Twitter, Blue Sky, Reddit. I like to try to be active on all those places. And yeah, if the stuff I'm making is interesting, I'd love to hear that because it's motivating.
Well, you made me think of one more question. I was curious with the socials, have you found any platform to be more successful or useful than the others?
Early on, Reddit has like a roguelikes community that was really, really like that had the highest level of like me making a post and getting actual players. Like this is when I had like an itch.io game on the browser where I could just see the player count go up immediately. That was always the best. Um, but honestly, like it's painful to say, but like Steam is the best marketer for whatever reason, or getting like a big YouTuber to cover you, which is both things are pretty hard to control. But for word of mouth, like being like in a Reddit community was good. I don't know how that's like the problem with these socials is that they all sort of get worse over time, and a new better one shows up, and people go to that. So I'm probably already outdated. Twitter is kind of good, but it I never really got a lot of players from it. It used to be like where people, if you wanted to get noticed by smaller YouTubers, they'd scout Twitter for game dev stuff. I don't know how good Blue Sky is for marketing. It's pretty new.
Hmm. Well, thank you for sharing all your insights and your advice too. It was great learning about you, learning from you, and I wish you great success to continue for your current game and with the next game too. And I hope it does amazingly well.
Thank you, and thank you so much for the call.